When quilting a border on your quilt, it's really important to really take notice of where your seams are, what your binding seam will be, to know how far in you need to quilt. So I have a seam in my border here. I know that my binding will be a 1/4 inch up here, and I'd like to be a 1/2 inch total from the edge, a 1/4 inch for the binding and another 1/4 inch for the border to start. So you can use your corner finder to find that spot exactly where you're going to be. And you can also use your foot as a reference guide. I would like my design that I've selected to start on the seam line. Whether it starts from this side or the other end, I need it to start right on that seam line. So my right upper is going to be selected with my needle right on the seam line. So QBOT right now says 2 or 4 point scaling. We're going to select 4 point scaling. It says place on right upper, press go. So I'm going to place it on my right upper, and now I'm pressing go. It says place on right lower. Again, I would like to be a 1/2 inch from the next seam line. So the seam line that's here for the border, I'm going to be a 1/2 inch up. And I've marked it using my corner finder. I just right now have that moved out of the way so you visually can see things. But the corner finder helped me to find my spot, and then I marked it. So it says place on right lower, press go. I'm going to go do the 2 left corners now. Left upper, left lower. The design was made in the software. So when the design was made in the software, I made it to fit close to that space. I still am going to select proportional no. So it says keep proportional. I'm going to select proportional no. 0 rotation. It's now scaling the design to fit into the space. So once it starts scaling, depending on the size difference that my design is or how big my design is, that scaling process might take a short moment or it might be a little longer. And that all has to do with a couple of things. How many nodes are in your QBOT design? How much scaling difference there is. If you took a 2-inch design to make it a 20-inch design, that scaling process is going to be a much longer process than it would be if you were taking a 2-inch design to a 3-inch or 4-inch design. So QBOT is scaling the design. Now, I know where my start position is. I can move my machine close to where I think that start position is. Here's why. If my design was starting over here, I'd right now, while it's scaling, move my machine in QBOT over to here. That way it's not hovering all the way across the frame to get to the location of the start. So really important for you to know where is that design going to start. Once you finish the scaling process, then you can begin quilting. Now, the thread color that I have on my machine is the thread color for this quilting. If I had a quilt prepared and ready to go on the frame now, a little tip is I would put the bobbin thread on the frame now so that I could be winding bobbins for my next quilt. So I get that all ready to prepare for my next quilt. So I'm going to go start my QBOT and begin quilting my border on my Delectable Mountain quilt. Pull that bobbin thread up to the top. Leave a nice long tail so that you can bury it. And begin quilting. Now, here's another little tip for you. I'm doing a border. I did make the border to fit the space. I didn't just cut a border and then sew it to it and trim it off. But sometimes there are little ripples, so I usually take a ruler and I'll slide any of the excess just gently pushing with a ruler up as it's quilting. Sometimes I might need to go this way and do that. So know that as it quilts, I'll use a ruler to kind of help adjust the fabric. I can also lay my hands on the fabric. If I'm getting a little biased stretch or something, I can lay my hands like this. That puts pressure on the fabric and allows me to kind of ease things in. So there are many ways to do your border, but sometimes, depending on your border, you'll get waffling or lettucing. And actually this border looks like it turned out quite well, so I don't really have to worry about that too much. So depending on, you know, the quilt that you have on the frame, you might have to worry about that. So all's well here. I'm going to finish my border, and then I'll turn my quilt to do the other side. Happy quilting!